Good morning. It's Thursday, May 15th, and you found us here at the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. I'm a meteorologist, long time doing this, broadcast meteorology. Would you believe I started back in May of 1989? So I do some quick math here. Coming up, what is it, 36 years? Is that possible? Anyway, I'm here to talk to you about today's top weather headlines. We're broadcasting from the 13 News Now studios serving Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. But thanks to our streaming and the ability to go on YouTube and, of course, with the 13 News Now Plus, you can find us anywhere. So we really serve the entire region, the country, and the world. Let's take a look at the headlines, what we're going to tackle with today's edition of the Weather Desk. You can see we've got more severe storms possible later today and tonight. Now, that's for Hampton Roads, but for other parts of the country as well. We're going to break down what's going on. We do have a weather impact alert for Southeast Virginia and Northeast North Carolina. We'll take a much closer look at that as well coming up. But I also want to talk to you about some other parts of the country facing a threat of tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds. There's a large area and a large chunk of the country with a storm system that's developing. We're also going to talk about a warming trend and heat-related illness. We've got a closer look at some of the impacts the weather and heat specifically has on the human body. We'll be talking about that. We're going to talk about the increasing threat of algae blooms as well. Some blue-green algae out there, potentially with the warm weather and all the rain that we've seen. We'll talk about that and things you can do to stay healthy and keep your pets healthy as well. And then we're also going to visit in with the update on the Minnesota wildfires. I'm going to bring back Marta Berglund. She's got family right there, very close to those wildfires. We're going to talk to her, get a little insight as to what that area is dealing with, and we'll show you some more information, the latest on those. We'll also take a closer look at hurricane hunters. Hard to believe we're just a couple weeks out from the start of the hurricane season, so there is a lot to talk about. Well, Hampton Roads is under a weather impact alert today as we have another round of strong to severe storms, and we're going to continue to watch for that as we go through the late afternoon and evening. Let's take you live over Virginia Beach and Newport News. It's not too bad right now. We do have some clouds. There have been some breaks in the mix as well. Skies have been variably to mostly cloudy, but that unsettled weather is expected later this afternoon and tonight, especially this evening. We'll take a look at the radar and we'll get into exactly what's going on. There's not much out there right now. The showers and storms are offshore, but later today I do expect some storms to develop and move into the area. Now keep in mind, just a couple days ago we had heavy downpours washing out roads in Virginia Beach. This is a look at the flooding near Oceana. So again, this occurred a couple days ago, but everything I'm showing you here, like that car trying to drive through the water, you think about all the rain, over 2 inches there at Oceana, 2 to 2.5 inches of rain, locally higher amounts in some other areas. All of this is setting the stage for what's coming later today, and I'm going to explain how that all ties in. Now, Hampton Roads wasn't the only place hit by the strong storms this week. I do want to take a look and show you some of the video of flooding from Westernport. This is a town in rural Maryland that was put underwater by flash flooding. The high waters forced 200 students and staff to evacuate an elementary school by boat. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Now, the cleanup from that storm is well underway. You can check it out. Tractors have been helping pump out floodwaters while crews are busy clearing that debris and the mud. It's just been a real mess. Now, I want to come back to some of the flood reports and some of the storm reports from just the last 12 to 24 hours. We'll zoom in, and I wanted to show you specifically across Hampton Roads. You see numerous flooding reports. There were a bunch of areas that picked up very heavy rain just off to our west. And as you can see, a little bit of hail there. We'll come back to that in a moment. But let's take a look at some of the flooding reports that we got up in Newport News. Hilton Village, there around 5:30, flash flooding. The road was closed from flooding on Warwick Boulevard. So we had that type of flooding, but we also have here in Hampton Roads some underpasses that fill up, and the drains just can't handle the tremendous amounts of water that we sometimes get. And that was the case also in Hilton Village. Roads closed from the flooding at the underpass of Main Street. So I want folks here in Hampton Roads, again, to be mindful there could be some locally heavy rain. You also saw some strong winds reported around the bridge tunnels, and we'll just take you to one of the reports here from Fort Monroe. At the Willoughby degaussing station, they reported a gust to 34 knots. That's roughly 39 miles per hour. So, again, gusty winds, and we had similar winds over around the Monitor Merrimack bridge tunnel. So this is what we were looking at yesterday. We could see some locally higher gusts this afternoon as well. Back across the western parts of the area, I wanted to show you this hail report. Up to penny size, not quite severe criteria. You get up to 1 inch, quarter size hail. That's the trigger for severe. But again, even 3/4 of an inch or penny size hail, pretty good size hail out there. And again, that was between Berlin and Sedley in Southampton. We could see some more severe weather for that part of southeastern Virginia coming up. So we do have this severe weather threat, and I'm going to say the best chances for the strong to severe storms between 4 and midnight, although some of the recently updated models are hinting that it could linger, push a little bit later past midnight, maybe towards 1:30 or so. Certainly a late night for Tim Pandagis, our chief meteorologist, and I'll be in early tomorrow to pick up the coverage if those storms linger even later than that. But we're going to be watching it through tonight. Possible very heavy rain and severe storms. And the Storm Prediction Center has expanded the level 2 threat area a little farther to the east and a little farther south. So it does include more of our 13 News Now viewing area. Bottom line, we need you to stay weather aware. Do what you're doing right now. Check back on the 13 News Now Plus app. We're going to be doing some live streaming. As a matter of fact, I plan on doing some more. We'll do this through about 9:30 or so. I'll come back at 10 and give you another update on where things are going as we get more and more updated graphic and model information, and we'll be showing you and updating you on what the threats are through the afternoon and evening. So a lot of stuff available there. Also on your mobile apps, we'll let you know how you can download the 13 News Now app and stay up to date on everything going on if you are on the go. You take a look at the main threats, the significance, gusty winds, low to moderate. I think we could see some more winds gusting up over 40, 50 miles per hour around some of the stronger storms. There is some possibility of hail. I mentioned the penny-size hail yesterday at Southampton. Tornadoes, not very likely, but you will see Hampton Roads is included in an area that is identified with a risk of some potential rotating cells. So we'll talk more about that. And then again, with some of the heaviest downpours, flooding is going to be a concern. Now, this morning when I was putting the forecast together, I went ahead and called the weather impact alert for this afternoon and evening. But it was kind of a tricky call. And the reason I say that, there were some things that I was kind of leaning into saying, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Okay, if we get these things coming together, these are the reasons why it will happen. All right. But there's also some reasons why it could be a little bit of a bust. All right. I'm going to get into those. But let's talk about why I thought, yeah, let's do this. We've had a lot of rain over the last few days. There is a lot of ground moisture, areas that are muddy or almost swampy, even some standing water in some areas from the past few days, previous heavy rains. I just showed you that flooding, for instance, at Oceana. Where we get the sunshine heating things up, we're expecting highs today in the low to mid 80s. That heat combines with the high humidity and that ground moisture. It evaporates some of the water on the ground, brings that water vapor up into the atmosphere, and all of a sudden there's a lot more fuel to combine with the heating to produce those storms and some heavier rain. We also could potentially get a little sea breeze boundary, and that may aid in lifting, add a little more lift along that sea breeze where you have a little bit of a wind coming in with some cooler air right off the ocean. You've got that warm and humid air farther inland. That can create a little boundary that can sometimes kind of enhance the lift and trigger more of those heavy showers and storms. So those were all reasons why I said, you know what, let's go ahead. We're going to do the weather impact alert. And we take a look at some of the reasons why I was a little skittish. Now, again, we made the jump, and I'm glad I did, because now the models are picking up on some of those things I was talking about. That wasn't the case earlier this morning. Early this morning, the models were showing only limited development. Now they are starting to get a little bit more bullish on this idea of storms. So again, I'm very confident that it is trending back towards my call that I made early this morning. We have limited sunshine and lower temperatures that potentially could steal some of the energy that's needed to produce these stronger storms. So that's one thing that could kind of weaken the development a little bit. We'll see. And also, there's no real clear strong lifting mechanism, okay? There's a frontal boundary that is kind of stalled out to the west of us and off to the north, but it's not like there's a cold front plowing into warm and humid air, something that would definitely help lift. I mentioned there could be a little sea breeze boundary, certainly heat and humidity. Those are a couple things that come together. But these are reasons why I was at least a little more cautious initially about pulling the trigger on this weather impact alert. Bottom line, we want you to be prepared, and I showed you the reasons why I think we could see some development. Now, this is a change, and this is why I'm starting to feel really confident that, again, this impact alert was warranted. You take a look here. When I came in this morning, it was just this westernmost area west of Williamsburg and much of Surrey County and parts of Southampton County. These areas here were shaded in yellow. The Storm Prediction Center out of Norman, Oklahoma has now taken that level 2 area and included Isle of Wight, the city of Suffolk, western Chesapeake, down into North Carolina, parts of Camden, Pasquotank, Chowan, Perquimans counties, Gates County, Hertford County. These areas here all added in now. So it looks like a better chance for those severe storms extending a little farther east and south. We're still under a level 1 threat for Norfolk, Portsmouth, Virginia Beach, and most of Chesapeake, along with the rest of the peninsula, middle peninsula, and northern neck. Notice the eastern shore not included in that severe weather outlook. Now, I mentioned earlier, it looked like it was mostly going to be maybe wind or some potential for hail, but the tornadic threat is there, okay? It's just a level 1, just a 2% chance of a tornado forming within 25 miles of any given point. So it's not very likely, but it wouldn't be out of the question to have a tornado warning issued, at least radar indicated, and there's a possibility. We saw a little bit of that yesterday afternoon, and we weren't even outlooked with that 2% chance. We saw a couple areas that there were severe thunderstorm warnings with possible rotation. And we could see inbound, outbound winds when we started taking a look at the velocity profile of some of these storms and cells moving through. So we're going to be watching for that this afternoon. That's why I want you to stay weather aware. Now, I mentioned I was not only going to talk about Hampton Roads, but other parts of the country as well. You can see from Michigan down through Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, back across parts of Minnesota, we have this level 2 threat for tornadic development. But look at this area here in red, level 3 across much of Wisconsin, northern Indiana, southern and southwest Michigan, and back through Chicagoland. So I want to talk about this. This is obviously a higher probability of tornadoes forming in this area. And the fact that it's hashtag there could be a few stronger tornadoes in the mix from Kalamazoo down through South Bend, Indiana, just around the Fort Wayne area to the north. Chicago, Illinois, sweet home Chicago. Love this city. And they are going to be under the gun for potential tornadic development. So they're going to be busy there. Milwaukee, Madison, Wisconsin, up through Eau Claire, Sheboygan, you can see, does not include Green Bay in this level 3, but it does have Wausau and Rice Lake. So these portions of Wisconsin really need to stay weather aware as tornadoes, again, more likely in this region. We'll be watching that later today. Now, as far as the severe storms forecast goes, in general, you can see they've got a level 3 or an enhanced threat there. I suspect we will, with this slight risk, get a watch later this afternoon or tonight, this evening especially. So we're going to be watching for that. All right, when you take a look at the strong wind potential, we do have some potential here. Again, the greatest potential there, 75-mile-per-hour or greater winds against southwest Michigan, northern Indiana, and the extreme northwest part of Ohio. So these areas under that hashed area, again, Grand Rapids through Lansing, Michigan, Kalamazoo, down across, again, areas from South Bend back through Fort Wayne. Chicago is not in that hashed out area, but still a good chance that they're going to see some stronger winds. Then you get the large hail from Minneapolis through Chicago and off to the southeast of St. Louis down in southern Illinois. Think about those areas down towards southeast Missouri, again, Cape Girardeau, Carbondale, some of the different areas in southern Illinois. They'll be dealing with some of that large hail potentially in the areas with the hashtags, again, indicating maybe 2 inches or greater in diameter. That's some large hail. Not that everybody's going to see it, but that's where the potential is. Hampton Roads, we have some potential for hail, as I mentioned. So we're going to be watching that. Now, looking ahead to Friday, that level 3 threat kind of works a little farther to the east and south. Ohio River Valley, much of Kentucky, northern Tennessee, southeast Missouri, northeast Arkansas, and back across southern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. As you can see, there is that potential for tornadoes in this area as well, basically from the St. Louis metro area through the Boot Heel, southern Illinois, back across southern Indiana and Kentucky. This is an area, I have family back in St. Louis. I drive 64, Interstate 64, coming across this part of the country all the time, and this is going to be right under the gun. So again, folks traveling 64 through that part of the country need to be mindful. You could also see some very strong winds in this same general area, maybe shifted a little farther to the east into West Virginia. And then that large hail potential from central Ohio across Indiana. This extends farther to the west, not only St. Louis, but back down through Springfield, Missouri, Lake of the Ozarks, and back down across Arkansas. So that's what we're going to be watching as we go through the day on Friday. By Saturday, we are here in the Mid-Atlantic also under a level 2 threat, but the models really haven't been doing much with the storm development into Saturday. Couple ways we could see some severe weather late Friday night or early Saturday. If a cluster of storms hangs in, we could see it. If that cluster of storms weakens before really impacting Hampton Roads, that may leave enough instability on Saturday for a few more stronger storms. So we're going to be watching that and keeping you updated in the coming days. You'll also notice Arkansas back into Oklahoma and portions of Texas also under that level 2 threat. That's for Saturday. All right, as we take a look at the flood potential, we want to zoom in and focus on this. Again, you can see the potential for excessive rainfall. It is a level 1 threat, and we're going to continue to watch for that. It is going to be one of those situations where you could have locally heavy downpours. Now, our rain chances fairly low through much of the afternoon, but it does go up late afternoon and into the evening. We're talking chances around 40% or so, maybe 40 to 50%, kind of isolated to scattered. Friday, we see lower chances early on, but I do think we could see a little bit more late afternoon. So here are our chances for today, mainly dry through the morning and early afternoon. As we go mid to late afternoon, and again, that chance I'm looking at probably between 4 and say midnight or a little bit after, we're going to see isolated to scattered showers and storms potentially. A lot to talk about there. We also need to talk about heat. We've got hot and humid conditions, and heat is about to become a major concern. It's going to get warm today, but in the Mid-Atlantic, it is going to be dangerously hot, and we're looking at record heat across the southeast. So with hot and humid conditions, you've got to listen to your body. It's warm and humid, but again, it gets even hotter going into the weekend, and not just for Hampton Roads, down through the southeast and southern U.S. as well. Now, with temperatures for our area feeling like they're in the upper 90s, even flirting with triple digits, that brings a big risk of heat-related illnesses. Here's meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
We frequently talk about feels-like temperatures, but let's talk about how your body may react to certain hot temperatures. We'll start off with the coolest temperatures and work our way up. At feels-like temperatures as low as 80 to 89 degrees, heat-related illnesses can settle in. You may experience some fatigue if you spend a lot of time outdoors. Once the heat index rises to 90 to 104 degrees, heat cramps or heat exhaustion can occur. If you or someone you know starts to experience heat exhaustion, make sure that person is drinking water and finds their way into an air-conditioned place. Some symptoms of heat exhaustion include excessive sweating, dizziness, and a weak, rapid pulse. Feels like temperatures of 105 to 129 can spark new concerns. In Hampton Roads, heat indices of at least 110 degrees will trigger an extreme heat warning. Under these conditions, heat exhaustion is likely and heat stroke becomes possible. Some symptoms of heat stroke include no sweat, a throbbing headache, and possible loss of consciousness. If symptoms of heat stroke arise, call 911 immediately. Now, a heat index of 130 degrees or higher is extremely unlikely in the mid-Atlantic, but in that brutal heat, heat stroke is highly likely. For 13 News Now, I'm meteorologist Taylor Stephenson.
All right, Taylor, as we take a look at the forecast again, highs are going to be close to 90 for Norfolk on Friday and Saturday. And when you factor in the humidity, it's going to feel more like it's in the upper 90s on Friday. May see some areas with triple-digit heat index values or feels like temperatures, mid-90s on Saturday, and then drier air eventually works in later in the season. So just wanted to give you that heads up. There's something else, though, we want to talk to you about, and it's related to our recent weather, this rain that we've had and the warm conditions. We're talking about blue-green algae. This is cyanobacteria, and the blooms, well, they occur when you get warmer and rainy conditions, just like what we've been seeing. That means we may see some more blooms starting to pop up as we head into summer. Intense and changing weather patterns can increase these blooms, and it's common in lakes, rivers, ponds, and streams, and really anywhere you have standing water or slow-moving water. Cyanobacteria can cause issues for animals and humans if ingested or inhaled, and sometimes this can result in the irritation of skin, vomiting, other digestive issues. Scientists say the bloom is preventable.
Aside from warmer water temperatures, I think it's also important for landowners to understand the nutrients in their pond, so total nitrogen, total phosphorus, because employing nutrient mitigation strategies can really help prevent not only cyanobacteria issues, but overall algal issues that can impact a water body.
All right, if you see notable signs of algae on the water surface, swimming is not advised for humans or pets. Think about that. You should also report what you see to the Virginia Department of Health on their website. All right, you can see down at the ocean front, we don't have any algae blooms right now. Looks like they're getting ready for, I think, a monster jam down there with monster trucks. I can see them putting some of the cars, staging some of the areas that will be a go later on. You can see the water here going on, the wave action. It's not too bad out there as we check out the Thompson Creek Window Company. We'll look at the airport right now. Overcast, 67. Again, more clouds cutting that heat a little bit today. That would take away some of the potential energy for the storms. But with some breaks in the clouds, which we expect, there could be some more storm development, and we'll talk more about that as we go along here. All right, here's a quick look at our conditions on the bay. 67 degrees for a water temperature, the Atlantic, 65 with winds south and southeast at 5 to 10 knots. All right, we are going to turn our attention now to Minnesota, and I'm excited to bring in Marta Berglund. Okay, real quickly, Marta, we have a trio of wildfires that are still burning out of control here north of Duluth, okay? And we've got some video we can show you from the northeastern part of Minnesota. Crews have been battling the flames since Sunday. So far, combined 20,000 acres have been scorched. The Camp House fire near Duluth accounts for most of those acres with 12,000 burned so far. Jenkins Creek fire has burned nearly 7,000 acres, while the Munger Shaw fire is at nearly 2,000 So again, a lot going on there and not much containment to this point so far. I wanted to bring Marta in because you are from Minnesota and your family's from right up in this area. So talk to us a little bit about it. We'll zoom in and take you, first of all, here's Duluth. And what can you tell us about this little town here?
So my dad grew up near Duluth in Cloquet. So my family, my dad's side of the family lives in Cloquet. So that would be my grandparents and my dad's siblings. So Cloquet is actually home to a historic wildfire that happened back in 1918. And it's one of the most deadly wildfires in our nation's history. It was one of the biggest natural disasters in state history, and that happened right in Cloquet. So I've been texting back and forth with my grandpa, and he said a lot of people kind of have not memories of that necessarily.
Or have heard the stories.
Right,
sure.
So they're thinking about that and keeping that in mind. As you can see by the map, though, that it's not necessarily causing an immediate threat to Cloquet, which is a good thing. More northbound, we do have, is this the main wildfire?
These are the wildfires right in here, okay, and the smoke's been coming up. But I also wanted to talk to you about Vermilion Lake because you guys, your grandfather has a property or a cabin on the lake, correct?
Yeah, so my grandpa, on my mom's side, built a cabin when my mom was a kid on Lake Vermilion, which is one of the largest lakes in the state. So St. Louis County is in this area, and that is where the wildfires are. But I was talking to my aunt, who now owns the property, because I wanted to check in and see, you know, the status of things. And she was saying it's one of the largest counties in the state. So I was pretty concerned, but she was like, you know, it is still far away. Of course, with the containment issues, it is still a concern for people who are up there. It's interesting, though, because the majority of Minnesota's population lives in Twin Cities metro. Like 60% of, or 65% live in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and the surrounding cities. But many, many, many people have cabins up north, and they go up north during the summer, and they enjoy the lakes. There's like 11,000 lakes in Minnesota, as you know, the land of 10,000 lakes. So while not a lot of people may actually live up here all year long, there is a lot of property that is at risk, and it's very highly valued property.
Yeah,
so
you take a look at this too, and again, that lake pretty close to the wildfires when you back out a little bit. So again, this is of real concern here. And then you look up there near Winnipeg, just north of Winnipeg, there are numerous Canadian wildfires as well. So there's a lot of smoke impacting Minnesota, and I really appreciate you joining us here and just kind of sharing some insight. So even though Minneapolis, St. Paul, where most of the folks live, much farther south from these, there's so much property owned up there. For Hampton Roads, it would be similar to folks maybe having property down along the Outer Banks. You know, a lot of folks may live or work in Hampton Roads, but they may have homes or properties that they're very interested in down that way. I want to talk about where the smoke is headed. So let's go ahead and take this full. Marta, thank you so much for joining us. We'll watch the smoke here, and you can see, and I can jump back over in front of the maps, show you how the winds have been blowing the smoke off to the northwest. And really some of that smoke may be blowing over towards Vermilion Lake, where Marta's grandfather has that property. But the heavier smoke around those fires up in Winnipeg, we're watching that as well, because this has been curling back around, and that's eventually expected to kind of wrap back around an area of low pressure right here and draw back down through central Minnesota. We have an eye to those wildfires up there, and we'll keep you updated on how things are contained. There's also some smoke, maybe some general smoke starting to find its way back across the mid-Atlantic, but nothing too dramatic. It will be hazy, hot, and humid as we go over the next couple of days. Our UV index today, it is very high. It's again a 9.3, only about 20 minutes to burn. As we take a look, tree and grass pollen are moderate, and I want to get into our futurecast and talk about that severe weather threat again. As we go through the morning hours and into the afternoon for Hampton Roads, we're in great shape, but you see how storms start to fire up as we get into the evening, and some more showers and storms kind of work down. By midnight, we could have some intense storms pushing into the peninsula, and some of the areas kind of filling in a little bit later. So that's why I was saying Tim may have a really late night. I may come in a little early really depending on if these storms clear the area or whether they hang in. I do think a lot of it will kind of move out as we go past midnight and past, say, 1 o'clock or so. But we're going to have that potential. We're going to be watching it, and we'll keep you updated. Again, more showers and storms in the forecast. While not as widespread Friday, there's still a chance for some isolated storms. And then we have to take a look at that potential coming up late Friday. You see here with our next cluster, this is the one that if it holds together, it could push in to our region early Saturday. That's why I think we had that level 2 threat for early Saturday. But if it doesn't pull through, and hold its own, if it kind of fizzles a little bit, it may leave the atmosphere charged for some more showers and storms later on Saturday. So again, highs today, low to mid 80s across the south side. Chances for storms late afternoon and evening. You see it up on the peninsula, the middle peninsula. Eastern shore looks better, partly cloudy skies generally, but we need to see some sunshine to spike these temperatures, and that'll help trigger some of the storms. If we have more cloud cover and the temps stay cooler, we may not see quite as much development. So that is one of those feedbacks we're going to be monitoring through the afternoon and letting you know. That's why I really encourage you to keep checking back with us here at 13 News Now. Temperatures mid 80s down for northeast North Carolina, upper 70s at the Outer Banks. Again, isolated storms through the evening and overnight. We really need to have a storm symbol on there because, again, I do think a few of those storms will hang in through about midnight. They'll be isolated. Many folks will just have partly cloudy skies, but we will be watching for storms. And again, tomorrow, temperatures close to 92 with more chances for storms. It's going to feel like it's near 98 degrees. Storms are going to be possible as we get into Saturday. I mentioned maybe early midnight, say the early morning hours, or potentially a little later in the day as well. On Sunday, should be mostly sunny. A shot of cooler air comes in for next week, and that is going to be really nice. Want to remind folks, you can always get the latest news, traffic, and weather by downloading our 13 News Now mobile app. You can scan that QR code, have access to our updates and radars, everything you need to know right there at your fingertips. I want to thank you for joining us over the last half hour here on the Weather Desk. We will be watching again. I plan on streaming again at 10 o'clock for more coverage on the setup and the potential for stronger storms here across Hampton Roads, so you can join us then. And each hour around the top of the hour, we'll be doing some streaming updates to let folks know what is developing or what isn't developing. If it shifts back the other way, you'll know that too. So make plans to join us as you're able to right here on 13 News Now Plus, wherever you stream your content. Again, I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller from the Weather Desk. Have a great day.